What is going on, everybody? Jumbo Thick here, back with more Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, our Rise of the Forsaken campaign. I am joined once again by our crew of adventurers. Mr. Jumbo Smooth, if you'd like to introduce yourself and your character.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jumbo Smooth. I'll be playing the role of Marius Wolf. If you've followed along this so far, you know I'm a miner. Very strong. My goal was to obtain lodging, and I completed that in our last session, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Yes.
And that's it.
Very swole, I'd say. And then
Yes,
Mr. Doobie.
What's going on, guys? I am playing Seamus McGrady. Again, if you have followed along, you know he is the sniper with the crossbow and one tough guy.
I'd say so. He recently upgraded your toughness. You're pretty beefy, I'd say. We'll see if somebody can cut you down to size, though. All right. I, of course, am your GM for the night, Jumbo Thick. I hopefully don't need any more introductions. And we're not going to do the in-depth introductions we used to, just because it's going to get tedious the further along we get. We completed our first adventure last session. Our faithful heroes managed to survive the beastmen herd that had besieged the mining town of Sealburg. There was a bit of shenanigery between our heroes and, of course, the people who run the town and a few other individuals in town. So we'll see what comes of that. Both of you made it to town first. You survived the herd. Some of you got cursed. Some of you don't know where you came from. You might have just the tip of some amnesia we might get to see a little bit of. And yes, you defeated your first, the head of the herd, essentially your first boss in Tarkag the Unfilled. You managed to not only kill him, but successfully escape the burning remains of the war camp, which has henceforth been dispersed. Made a couple allies, lost a couple allies along the way. At the end of our last session, you finally got your curse removed, Mr. Wolf, and both of you you finally got that death curse that's been hanging over your head this whole time. It's finally gone. You had your curse removed. No, you don't know what it did, though. Honestly, maybe it just would have itched or something.
True.
But the curse was removed by Mother Inga the Sightless. You guys left. You chose to leave two individuals in Mother Inga's care. We'll see how that goes. You were gifted with a rather potent, if I do may say, a interesting potion, which you both swallowed, Essence of Tarkag. Which made you freakishly strong, so you guys still have that. Did I tell you guys you had 3 uses apiece?
Yes.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're in like a makeshift, kind of like a water skin, so you guys still have those. But at the very end of our last session, you guys were taken in by Governor Archibald Freeze, the de facto head of Sealburg, and what's left of it, who basically told you guys that you were indispensable in the defense of Sealburg, and that you would be justly rewarded. You were all given lodging if you could not secure it other ways. Some of you, you particular Mr. Seamus, were gifted your childhood home and property, which is a few miles outside of town, but you were gifted it, as well as, if you chose to, you have a place to stay in the barracks for the mine itself. There are quite a few empty bunks now after what just happened. So there's plenty of space for you guys to spread out if you choose to stay there. But before we do any of that, is there anything you guys want to get done before we get into our downtime in between adventures? You basically just walked outside of the governor's mansion. Is there something you want to check on real quick before we get into anything else, or are we going to start skipping ahead?
Nothing for me.
Oh,
What about you?
yeah, I don't
think so.
I don't think so
Okay.
either.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to go straight into what are in the rule book are referred to as endeavors. 6 months are going to pass between what just happened, between you guys getting basically the blessing of the city, and when we're going to kick off our next official adventure. So, in this 6 months, we will start with Mr. Wolf. You get 3 things that you've done in your downtime. Well, first off, let's establish what you guys do in your downtime. Where are you both sleeping? We'll start with you, Marius. Where do you spend your nights?
I would assume most of the time in the barracks I was recently assigned.
Okay,
By the Governor Freeze.
Okay, so you do have a choice here. You in particular.
I mean, yeah. I mean, sometimes would be spent with Sarah for sure.
Okay. All right.
But it's not my home.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just an occasional kind of.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
How about you, Seamus?
Yeah, I'd say a mix between the barracks and the Silver Thaggy.
Okay. Okay.
And,
Are you renting a room there, or are you trying to get a room other ways?
Renting a room.
Okay, you'd actually rent a room. Okay.
Yes.
You in particular make enough coin. You could afford to rent a room every once in a while. So that could be done easily enough. I'm assuming you two maybe do you guys meet up periodically?
Yeah, Marius is my best
sure.
mate, bro.
Okay,
For sure.
all right.
Yeah. Drinks. Hanging with Amber Belly.
Yeah, of course. Yep, gotta hang out with Thordum. Marius, you are basically working for the mine as this happened at the end of the session, as a commissioned prospector, since you are not an official miner yet. So you have been tasked with, kind of almost like a scout for the mine, almost kind of seeing where you think you might be getting a good source of silver and various rare gems and metals and whatnot, and then reporting back to shit. I am spacing on his name. Brandyfoot. There we go.
Brandyfoot. Yeah.
Yeah. So many names in this head right now. So reporting back to Brandyfoot, essentially letting him know where you're finding things. So it's less of a, hey, I found some stuff, and more of a, hey, this is where I found some things, and maybe possibly this might be where it links up with the mine someplace. Yeah, that kind of idea.
Sure.
Seamus, you were given the option. You can do whatever you'd like. You were given the option to take up the old position of your family as basically a toll keeper. It would be close to where your house originally is. So do you do that for the mine, or what would you like to do essentially for your profession?
Yeah, if doing it for the mine is the option, then I'll do it for the mine.
Okay, yeah. So he gave you free reign, essentially. You do have to bring what you collect back to town. So you don't have the option yet in your career to skim money, but you might someday. You never know. So currently, you bring earnings back, and then you're paid accordingly. Basically, you're just collecting tolls from merchants coming in, men coming in to work the mine, men going out to work the mine sometimes, depending on what's going on. Mostly it's going to be traveling townsfolk. Occasionally you do see bands of soldiers coming in and out. That it seems that the security is starting to get beefed up around town, and there's been a lot of laborers coming in to not only repair the damaged gate, but also to start working on more structures, as it appears that the mine has been getting a little bit luckier, slowly but surely. They may or may not be a little bit more well off than was expected, or maybe it was always expected, and you don't know. But regardless, you are working for the mine, so you're both technically working for the mine right now. We'll start with Marius. For your first endeavor, what would you like to attempt? Oh, before you do that, both of you, all the money that you had at the end of the previous adventure is gone. It is assumed that you either spent it. I mean, I don't think you had any left. Marius,
five brass.
You have 5 brass. Okay,
in my defense, that's a third of what I had.
Okay, so, yeah, that's true. That's true.
I did pretty well.
You did. Yeah. And we will roll. We're going to roll again for money at the end of the endeavors. That will be just starting change. Now, you can also choose to work kind of like extra and have extra money when you start our adventure. That's an option. So all the money's gone. Technically, the silver flakes you collected would also be gone, Marius.
No!
Technically, they would, because it's considered currency. It's not like a thing.
Currency.
Yeah, it's not like, this is a silver ring or something. No, it's like you were using this to make money. So technically, those would also be gone since they were not utilized. Just keep that in mind. I'll let it slide this time. You can keep them this time, but you might want to use them at some point if you get the chance. So.
Okay.
All right. So, what would you like to do with your first endeavor, sir?
I discussed it with you a little bit. I would like to try to learn how to read.
Yes. Neither of you know how to read. That would be a useful talent to have. This is considered a talent. So at first, let's see if you can find somebody willing to teach you that knows. So I want you to make me a gossip roll. It'll be easy since you know your way around town. You're familiar with people, but there are new people coming in and out of town, so you never know.
Okay. So what's easy again? What's that plus?
Oh, that's going to be plus 40. Plus 40.
Plus 40. Okay. Let's see here. Oh my God. I'm so glad I got plus 40. So I rolled a 73. Ooh. And my gossip is at a 33 plus 40
no way.
Is 73.
Holy shit. Okay. All right. So that's just a straight success.
Success. Yeah.
You barely. So usually you're a real friendly guy. Well, you're always friendly in town to most people.
Yes.
But you're having a hard time finding people that know how to read and write. With that low of a roll, there are only 2 people that you run into that you think might be options for being taught by. The first one, begrudgingly, Mr. Gold knows how to read and write. And
oh God.
For the right type of favor, perhaps, he might be willing to teach you, or maybe have you do something for him. The other one that you know for a fact that everybody knows, because he does this essentially every Sunday or whatever day the church decides to hold session in Warhammer. I don't know off the top of my head. Father Leachter also knows how to read and write. And you think he might teach you, but he's not exactly a very patient man. So it might be with some difficulty. So those are your only choices, unfortunately.
I go with Father Lichter. I don't like Mr. Gold.
You don't like
so
Mr. Gold.
I'm
Okay.
going to.
And his creepy
I'm feeling
fingers.
I would sell my soul.
It's
just feel like eating back
sell your
too
soul. No, of course not.
Yes. Possibly working with mutants. So Marius, I think, would choose Father Lichter if he had the choice.
So you approach Father Lichter in your downtime. Perhaps you are a devout Sigmarite, correct? I mean, you attend church.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Correct.
So perhaps after church one day you approach him and work out, and essentially just ask him if you'd be willing to help learn the word of your Lord and Savior, who is Sigmar.
Exactly.
So, and he looks a little, and he's like, you know what? To make this easier, I need you to make me a charm roll.
Us on the battlefield.
He did. He was pleased. You're right. He was pleased by that. But to devote time just to teach you how to read, just go ahead and make me. It'll be an easy charm roll. So the plus 40. Let's hope you do a little bit better than the last time.
Easy charm. All right. Let's see here. Yes, it's a fair amount better. So with easy, that would be at 77, and I rolled a 21.
Oh yes.
About
okay.
4.
Easily.
No.
So
Got 5.
Yeah, he's convinced. He's like, oh man, this guy really wants to learn about Sigmar and his holy word, and he gets out basically the kind of tattered, kind of beaten and used essentially Bible that he has that denotes the word of Sigmar and all of his great deeds and all of the lessons he bestowed upon his followers, and essentially after service. He is going to hold essentially like a private tutoring session with you to attempt to teach you how to read and write. And this will be Reichspiel. This will be the language that you know. So you are learning a talent. It is difficult because this is outside of the norm for you, for your class, your station, for everything. So, so reading and writing is intelligence-based. This is going to be hard because it's not something you're used to doing. So I need you to, I want to make sure I'm doing this right. Let me just look it up.
All right.
Yep. It's going to be a hard test. So minus 20 to your intelligence roll.
Ooh. All right.
This is your first attempt. Here. So this is basically the first month of you attending church and little private tutoring sessions here and there.
All right, here we go. Let's see what the dice say. So that would put me at a 16 for intelligence. Intelligence is INT, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I have 36. You said minus 20?
Yep.
So that'd be 16, and I rolled a 9.
You did not. On your first roll?
I did.
Oh my god. So, holy shit, man. That's impressive. Yeah. So it is going to cost you experience, but we'll dock it from tonight's, essentially. Just make a mental note of that in case I forget. Not that you'll try to get one over on me. Of course not. Wouldn't do that.
No, I would never.
Yeah,
I would never try
to
do that.
So, uncharacteristically of Father Lichter's expectations of you grasping the word that is Sigmar, you really want to do this. It's something that you feel like it's something that if you want to raise your station in life, if you want to be something more than what you've always been, something more than your family's always been, that this would be a useful skill to have, or a talent, let's just call it, for the sake of making sure everything gets straight in this. So you successfully, after just a month of tutoring, learn how to read and write the basics. So you're not like an expert, let's just say it like that. Essentially, if you want to read something without more practice, over time you'll get better at it. You're going to make a check, a language check, essentially, involving Reichspiel, which you are fluent in, to decipher what it says.
Okay.
With your linguistics trait that you rolled with when you created your character, you can learn languages, different languages of people. If you spend a month's time with them, then we'll make a roll. And since you now know how to read and write, it also goes with the languages that you learn. So if you were to learn a different form of, like if you were to learn Bretonnian, you would also learn how to read and write Bretonnian at the same time.
Okay.
So
if I learned the language.
Yeah. So if you learn the language, there will be some stipulations depending on the language. But if it's basically if it's any language that man speaks, you'll be able to read and write it.
Okay.
So man, that's
that,
one. Go ahead.
Is that a skill as well, reading, or is it just a talent?
It's just a talent, but it's a unique talent for you because it's outside of the norm. Until you get a lot more practice with it, it's still fresh. You know, you're still just a filthy minor peasant. I mean, come on.
I am.
But yeah, it's technically a talent, but we'll roll it with an intelligence test. Also, if you have any points in like lore, empire, lore, Reichspiel, things like that, you'll get a bonus to that kind of stuff. So, so yeah, that's one down. Let's flip over to Seamus. What are you going to do for your first endeavor, sir?
My plan has been to get this mysterious dagger I have checked out.
Okay.
And Otto told me to go to the smith at the mine.
He did. All right. If you're going to do that, now I do need to know ahead of time what exact. Are you just trying to get it appraised, or what are you trying to find out?
I'm trying to figure like what's special about it, because I know it's like a darker, thin blade.
Yes. It's very thin. It has an interesting sheath. It's almost like a sword, but it's the size of like a dagger, or a very, very, very small sword, in a way. So it's something very unique that you haven't seen. So you're given directions by Otto into the mine, where you will come across for the first time. We'll get into more of what the mine's like later, just to get through the endeavors real quick. You come across Hugo. His name is Hugo Glasner. He's a decently tall man. He's a little bit shorter than you, Seamus, but I mean you're freakishly tall for the area. He is he's about 6 feet tall, so you're taller than him. He's very well muscled. You find him hammering away at the forge. He's appears to be maybe in his 40s, late 30s maybe. He only has one eye. You notice that immediately. There's only one eye, and then the other eye is that the pale gray color that it appears to be most of the locals have. He also has dark brown hair that's starting to kind of salt and pepper. It's not very thick. It's starting to thin out a little bit on the top. But he does not wear a shirt while he's forging. Very dangerous. He's hammering away. He's got leather gloves on, thick leather gloves, leather trousers, boots and whatnot. And the hair is actually kind of long. It dangles about the shoulders, just kind of hammering away back and forth. He looks very strong as well. So you approach Hugo, and he's just hammering away. He's just clunk, clunk, clunk.
I'm going to pull it out. I'm kind of like strapped assume I have it strapped like behind my back on my hip. I'll pull it out, kind of lay it in front of him and get his attention and wait for him to stop hammering, see if he notices me there.
Okay, and let's see if he does, actually. He has no idea you're there. He's enthralled with his work. He's working, and it looks like you're not sure what he's working. It looks something, it's kind of small and thin. The workshop itself is pretty big, actually. A very large room, very tall. And there's multiple forges, but there's only one lit where he's working. So you can't see most of the rest of the room. But you're just kind of standing there, and you kind of push what you think might be in his field of vision, the sheathed dagger, just kind of like on a table nearby. Just kind of, you're standing there, and you kind of push it, trying to get into his view, and he's just too focused on what he's doing.
Can I reach him?
Oh yeah, easily. I mean, he's not like behind something. He's just out in the open. I will need to know how you are going to get his attention, though.
I want to poke him a couple times in the shoulder.
Okay, so just a little tap, 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 and he immediately kind of tenses up for a second, but he doesn't like spin around with like hot metal in his hand. He kind of, and then he looks back at you, and you notice that the eye that he does have, there's like almost like a makeshift monocle with a leather strap on each side, and it looks like the monocle is tinted. Something you've never seen before. It just looks really strange and kind of bizarre. And he with his one right grizzled hand, he reaches up and pulls it up, and you notice that there's actually severe scarring on where his dead eye is. There's scarring around it, like something actually took a big chunk of his face out. And he looks up at you. Hey, what can I do for you?
Well, Otto told me you're the one to get me weapon checked out here. And I'll unsheath the dagger from the sheath.
Weapons, you say? Not my specialty. And he kind of looks at it. Oh, it's a fine blade. Where'd you get it?
Well, I was out for a walk in the woods and I found it. You know anything about it?
Found it, you said. And he looks at you, and he is going to... He seems a little shifty with his eyes. There's some strangers just walked into his forge. Hasn't introduced himself. And he's looking, he's holding this unsheathed blade, and it's a very bizarre thing. And he is going to... he gleams nothing looking at you. You don't even have to make a check. He can't tell. He looks a little perturbed that you haven't introduced yourself, but he's looking a little shifty, looking at the blade. I haven't seen work like this before.
Well, do you know what it can do? Is it some type of magic metal or something?
And he looks at it, and he says, well, you take the pointy end and you stick it in people. And it's just very matter-of-factly, almost like he's not being a smartass. He's just instructing you how you would use it.
Are there any like practice dummies around?
There are not, actually. There doesn't appear to be. You know what? Actually, go ahead and make me a perception check.
All right.
Yeah, this will be just a straight challenging perception check.
Got a 62 out of 51.
Okay, so it's hazy in this room. It's real hazy. The forge is billowing out quite a bit of smoke. So you don't see a whole bunch. You don't see much of anything, and you definitely don't see anything that would even resemble some kind of practicing dummy or something like that. In fact, you don't even notice any weapons like strewn about the workshop or anything like that. What you do see, which is actually under the table that you're standing at, is a large assortment of nails, large, almost like railroad spike size nails. Looks like they're made out of some kind of maybe iron-like material. You're not exactly sure. There's also horseshoes, and it looks like the like heads to probably mining picks. You get the idea that he specifically works for the mine and completes orders that they would need. He doesn't specialize in what it appears to be any armor or weapons that you can tell. He is a smith by trade, so he does know metal. And as he's looking at the metal, he strange, and he gets a little bit closer to the blade, looking at it, and then he says, "You see these flakes here?" And he takes his finger and kind of pointing at it, trying to get you to come closer and look closer at the knife in the low light of the forge.
I lean forward.
Okay. He shows you, and there's these what you thought was like blackened steel are actually tiny little black dots all over the blade, kind of running up and down it. But there's also big spaces where there's nothing, and it looks like just regular steel. But when you hold the blade away from you, it looks like just a black piece of metal. And he basically kind of flips it back and forth. It's very well made, but the metal itself, nothing I've worked with, doesn't seem that sturdy.
You got anything we can try it on and see how sturdy it is?
Well, I get the feeling you could probably employ it in the wilds. Don't know of much other than the fact that Governor Freeze has issued a outstanding warrant for the vermin that have been infesting parts of the mine and various parts of the town. If you were skilled enough, and he kind of looks at you, appraising your arms in particular, perhaps a good throw.
Throw, you say?
I mean, it's a very aerodynamic weapon, it appears to be. I mean, if I had to guess, the only thing I've ever seen close would be a throwing dagger.
What, do you have any idea what something like this might be worth with your knowledge of metals?
Okay. Now, this is interesting. He looks at it and says, "It is a rare find, and finely made. Best guess, I'd give you 20 silver.
All right. Not too bad. Thanks for all your help. Do you know any other blacksmiths in the area I can talk to?
Fortunately, I'm the only smith in town, as of yet. Not much competition these days.
Right, I can see that.
There are metal workers in outlying regions. I hear that Mr. Gold fancies himself a expert on all things weaponry. And he kind of mockingly kind of moves his head back and forth. But that is that. I hear that old Thordoom might have his hand at knowing a thing or two about metal himself.
Aye, Thordoom, I love that guy. Quite the character.
I'd say so. Very interesting indeed. And he doesn't appear. He has kind of an odd expression on his face. It doesn't shift that much. He's almost like a very stoic man. A man of few words.
Alright, so I best be on my way and let you get back to your work. Thanks for everything you let me know here.
appreciate that, sir.
I will sheath it back up and make my way to Mr. Gold.
All right. The mysterious stranger who never introduced himself to Hugo just leaves. Walks out of the forge. I'm considering that your first endeavor. Do you want to continue down this path, or do you want to attempt something else?
Another endeavor I wanted to do was like figure out where my family is.
Okay. So I'll ask you this: you're getting two more. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go to Mr. Gold's and try to find out what you can about this dagger, or do you want to perhaps find out more about your family?
We'll do the family.
Okay. So, you have a few leads now on the mysterious dagger with the kind of blackened blade. Mm-hmm. But family's more important to you. You remember hearing from Otto in particular that he may know of where your mother is. And in fact, he actually gave you not directions, but instructions to search out Father Lichter. Not exactly one of your most supporters.
Ugh.
But I'm assuming you go to the Temple of Sigmar.
Yes.
So you actually arrive and you see Marius. It looks like he's got his face in a book. He's just like studying this book very intently. And Father Lichter slaps him across the head a couple times when he's not repeating the phrases properly. Just like whack! Good little whack. Not enough to do any damage or anything, but focus! And he kind of senses you walk into the temple, kind of looks up and makes eye contact. MacReady, I wondered would you come?
Hi, Father. I was hoping you'd be able to help me with some questions I got if you got the time.
Of course, son. Of course. Anything for a follower of Sigmar.
I'm looking for me mother. I remember to call her name was Iris.
Iris MacReady. Indeed, son. Indeed. And then he looks over at Marius. Wolf, keep practicing. And he will throw his...
father.
Good. He'll throw his arm around you, Seamus, and he's going to lead you outside of the temple. He doesn't say much. He just kind of walks you outside of the temple. And he leads you to a small hovel that has been kind of haphazardly put together, not too far from the edge of the newly being renovated wall being prepared. It's not like a tent, but it's like a makeshift kind of structure, not very sturdy. And he pushes back the curtain. There's not even a door. There's just a piece of fabric, almost like a blanket for a curtain. And he pushes it aside. We have a visitor for you, ma'am. And you see an older woman, older than you remember. She has, it appears to be jet black hair. She also has the pale gray eyes. You can recognize the face, though it is older than you remember. It almost like freakishly older. You remember seeing her just from what you've been able to piece together just 5 years ago. It looks like much more time has passed than just 5 years for this woman. And she just looks up at you and opens her mouth, but no sound comes out. Just, and she just looks, there's tears starting to well up and slide down her cheeks. and she's wearing just this ratty kind of makeshift dress, and she stumbles up and just starts, arms wide, runs towards you.
A loving embrace.
Loving embrace. So you take her in your arms, and she still hasn't spoken. She just kind of, and she's kind of sobbing quietly. And Father Lechter looks extremely uncomfortable with what's happening. He's not exactly a hug kind of guy, and he just watches the exchange. And I'm afraid to tell you this, if you have not realized, Mr. McCready, that your mother, Iris, here has not spoken in many years. In fact, we did not know her name. She stumbled into town a few years back, and the only thing that gave it away was, and he pulls out, he doesn't pull out, he points around her neck, and there is a necklace. And you recognize it's a necklace that your father gave her, who knows how long ago. For as long as you can remember, she's always had this necklace. And it has an engraving on it, and it is the engraving of your family crest. And he points at that, and you can thank Otto for identifying her. He recognized the crest and determined that this must be Mrs. McCready.
I'm gonna owe Otto a favor after this one.
Yes, and then Father Lechter just kind of, well, I'll leave you to it, son. Should you need anything, I have been trying to organize relief efforts with the governor, though they've gone not exactly as planned, to help uplift some of the less fortunate in our midst. I am currently in search of putting out word to other places, specifically the large city, our capital city, to get priestesses of Shalia, perhaps open up a full temple of Shalia here in Sealburg, which will take care of our unfortunate. And he kind of just nods towards your mother, who still hasn't let you go. It's like almost like a death's embrace, just clutching you. I'm shaking. For now, I have been feeding those unfortunate. She comes by the temple once a day, and I give out rations. But I suspect you may want to tend to her yourself.
Yes, I can do that now. Thank you, Father.
And he will, he just kind of nods, and then he's going to be walking back in the direction of the temple. I'm assuming you're going to spend some time with your mother. She doesn't speak at all, not this entire time. So you have been reunited with her. Is there anything you would like to do with her?
She doesn't speak at all anymore.
No, she's essentially mute. You have no idea what happened. Maybe it has something to do with her rapid aging, from what you can tell. But she recognizes you, but she just doesn't speak. No words come from her mouth. Almost like she tries to, but nothing happens.
Okay. I'm assuming she doesn't know how to... Does she know how to, write?
No, she does not. She does not know how to read or write.
All right, then yeah, I'll probably just spend some time with her.
Okay.
Figure out the rest of the stuff later.
She's staying in this makeshift hovel. Are you going to attempt to take her out of the hovel, maybe somewhere nicer? Or are you going to try to set her up at the Thaggy with a room? You can always attempt to have her stay in the barracks with you.
Oof. If possible, the Thaggy.
Okay. easily enough. You're well enough liked by Old Man Thordoom that he will give you a discount on a room, and you will be essentially sharing the room with your mother. So you could sleep there if you wanted to, but she will have a steady room at the Thaggy. And though that's as far as his charity will go, if you want to buy her food, that's going to be on your own. But she does get a meal from the Church of Sigmar once a day. So that's enough to subside off of. Though with her not being able to speak, that's probably one of the reasons why she hasn't been able to secure any kind of work in this town.
Okay.
So perhaps in the future we can arrange for something with her. And that will be your second endeavor. So let's flash over to Mr. Wolf. What would you like to do for your second endeavor?
Well, I had initially thought I would seek a job, but since I got one in our last session, I think my second endeavor is going to be maybe trying to stockpile, if I can, or figure out how to make Molotovs.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So, okay, let's do... all right, let me see. Make me a... So here's the thing. Securing the necessary ingredient. Mainly some kind of high quality, either alcohol or some kind of flammable material. You know of one source.
Yes, Mr. Gold.
You don't like it. So you can either make me a haggling check with Mr. Gold, or I will allow you to make an attempt, a gossip check, to attempt to see if you can find another source.
Let's go back to Mr. Gold. Let's do a haggling check. Let's do a haggle.
Okay. Go ahead and make me just a straight haggling check.
Okay. That is 21 out of 38.
Okay. All right. So that's 2 levels of success. Okay. So begrudgingly, you return to Mr. Gold's. Oro is there still. Not much has changed. Not much has changed. It appears that business has started to pick up again. It looks like he was perhaps desperate for business at the time when you previously entered, and he was going to bleed both you and Seamus for everything you were worth before you left. He's not as pushy this time around, though he does remember that you kind of got away from him with a little something. So he is willing to trade with you, no problem. He has secured more of the Gorilica, the essentially vodka from the distant land of Kislev, and he is willing to part with 2 bottles of Gorilica. So
all right.
I'm going to say over the course of another month, maybe a month and a half, you, through your working at the mine and everything else, you're able to afford 2 bottles. So you can get 2 bottles of Gorilica, which then, now, if you'd like, you can attempt to turn into a Molotov with a explosive check.
Okay. Straight explosive check?
Yeah, it's going to be your trade skill. So
trade skill. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, gee. All right, so it's going to be I rolled a 46 out of 42.
Yes. So you spend a little bit of time. You're not sure why. You think the first one works. You never used it. But you think it's worked. As a matter of fact, I believe you gave it to Seamus, so you don't even have it on you.
I did. I don't have it on me.
So you don't even have it on you as reference. So you're just you're like, okay, do I shove this in here? And you're not sure if it's working. It's just it's hit or miss at this point. You kind of almost give up after fiddling with it. You attempt to light it once, and it just doesn't light. The cloth or something is not right, so you might have to perhaps make an attempt at a later date to use them, but you don't lose the material since it wasn't that bad of a roll.
Okay.
Now we will flip back to Mr. Seamus. What will be your last endeavor, sir?
Is it possible to do like an explosive crossbow bolt or flaming crossbow bolt?
Okay. Let's see here. Go ahead and make.
If I can't get a pistol.
Yep. Go ahead and make me
instead.
a gossip roll to see if you can find anybody in town that might understand what you're asking for.
All right. Ooh, can I use a fortune point?
On endeavors? No, not on endeavors, man.
Damn it. I got a 61.
Okay. So you ask around.
2 degrees of failure.
Yeah, you ask around, and people are just like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Nobody, I mean, people their mind are blown at the thought of like an explosive crossbow. It's just, it's something unheard of. You, at one point in time, you approach the mine, and you seek out at Hugo, and he kind of and in his stoic expression, he's kind of just nods his head like now that you've given him the idea, maybe one day, because he does do a lot of work with the mine, and therefore also does a lot of work with explosives. But he is not an expert in weaponry, so it might take some time, but eventually someday maybe you will get an explosive crossbow bolt of some kind. So that would be for the future. So that passes. We'll head on back to Mr. Wolf. Your last endeavor, sir.
I would probably like to maybe do an investigation, perhaps.
Okay.
On where Catch might have run off to. If anyone heard anything or saw anything. Kind of know where he went.
Let's see here. An investigation. I guess just go ahead and make me another gossip roll. We're doing a lot of gossiping.
Okay. A lot of gossiping.
Yep. A lot of talking to people.
Oh, that's going to be a real bad failure. I rolled a 99, and I've got a gossip of 33.
That is fantastic. Not only is it a failure, it's a critical failure, which is the best kind. So there are so there's actually repercussions to this. So,
oh shit!
The last time you heard about Mr. Ketch, he was suspected of sabotaging the front gate. He was suspected of stealing large quantities of powder and shot from Mr. Gold, which is very rare in this in town. It's very rare to have anything of that sort. And then he was also suspected of burning down the front gate. So a couple months have passed at this point. You know, you and Seamus are almost heroes in town. Not quite. Nobody really knows what happened outside of the governor and a handful of people. Unless you're repping your own name here.
I'm rather charming. I
mean, you are charming, but are you like, oh, I'm the savior of the town? Is that the kind of guy you are?
Well, I might be like bragging at
the Thordoom
Rebelli, you know.
Okay, yeah.
Thordoom just being like, like I killed a beastman this big, you know.
Yep, and Thordoom definitely believes everything you said. He believes everything that comes out of your mouth. He's not used to embellishing his own stories. I mean, it's fine. So they definitely, everyone believes that you did what you said you did.
Damn it.
Regardless, you're asking around about Mr. Ketch, who may or may not be a wanted man in Sealburg at this point. And word gets around that you may be looking for him. And you get a meeting with Governor Freeze. A very serious meeting where he sits you down. And there are guards present.
How many?
There are 2 guards present.
Okay.
And these are fresh men now. There have been a new arrival of soldiers and whatnot from the capital city and of Nuln, that is the capital of Wissenland. Sent from the company, paid for by the mining company of Sealburg. And they look rather intimidating. They actually are wearing breastplates, metal breastplates, whereas some rather fancy chainmail, large swords at the hip. Matter of fact, they're not wearing any shields. The swords they're essentially great swords, is what you from what you can tell. They're not dangling on their hip. They're kind of sheathed, across the back, easy to draw.
Yeah.
At least in fantasy. In real life, I'm not exactly sure how the hell that works. Regardless, there's 2 men in there in partially plate armor. And Governor Freeze, who has recovered, he seems that he's gotten some sleep in, though he just always looks tired, regardless of the situation. And he just kind of looks at you. Master Wolf, I thought that we had left this behind us.
Apologies, Governor Freeze. I did not mean to alarm anyone in my investigation. I simply was trying to find young Master Ketch to either explain himself if he did the things he is accused of, or, shed light on possibly someone who did, if he has any knowledge of it.
And he nods his head. Marius, I have put my name on the line for you, and of course, your companion. I would hate...
Appreciate it, Governor Freeze.
I would hate for anything to put strain on our relationship, such as perhaps you wanting to contact a saboteur and possible fiend of the dark gods and bring him to our very town.
Well, Governor, apologies. That was not my intent. I simply was curious and wanted to know if he could possibly do this. I believe I told you before, I fought with the man. He helped me save a woman and child. He does not seem like the type of man to sabotage a city and throw away all of his efforts in saving said woman and child to have them devoured by monsters and fiends.
Regardless of intent, sir, not that I would expect you to know much about that, certain questions can lead to assumptions of one's character. And he will just look up at you, just lock gazes with you. Mr. Wolf, I would ask of you to no longer search for that man. And should you ever find anything out about him, immediately let me know. But do not. And he says this, and he almost whispers it. Do not let anyone hear of you searching for that man again. And you get the idea that it's not so much that he's angry. It's that he...
Scared, perhaps?
Perhaps, maybe scared. Yeah, that would be the best way to put it. Yes.
Marius will look at it very calmly, accepting in his mind that he kind of understands that maybe this is more out of fear and maybe not fear, but worry, how it would look to, I guess, others in higher places, and just without saying any of that, would just kind of nod and bow. Yes, of course, Governor. It will never happen again. I apologize. And
he will just
he'll
just thank you, sir. You may have your leave.
Thank you, Governor. And Marius will get up and leave.
All right. And with that, we are done with our endeavors.
Yeah.
All right. So, man, that took a while. That took longer than I expected, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
So we are through the endeavor. So we are actually going to pick up with our next adventure. Officially. It only took us an hour to get there. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So 6 months has passed since the slaying of Tarkag and coming back to the village, or not the village, the town of Sealberg. Marius, you learned how to read. Impressive in and of itself in such a rather short amount of time when you think about it. 6 months to learn how to read is actually, I mean, that's, oof. Very impressive indeed.
And in my mind, guys, I had envisioned kind of like a montage, probably leakers kind of over me, yelling at me. I throw the book on the ground, upset, like, I can't get it, I don't understand.
Yes.
He kind of bends over and talks me down, it's glorious. All set to some beautiful 80s music.
Yes. Sweet 80s music in this very medieval fantasy setting.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so you learned how to read. You have the materials to make 2 more Molotovs if you so choose, if you are successful. And you got a bit of a warning from Governor Freeze. Seamus, you were reunited with your mother. Who, if you've introduced her to Marius at this point, will tell you that he used to know her as simply grandmother. But now you will know her name, and he used to share a camp with her. In fact, she was in our very first session all those months ago. So
she may have the shits.
Well, she did not. She was the one who didn't. She just ate and she was fine.
Sure.
She seems to be made of sterner stuff. Maybe a trait of the family.
True.
Regardless, you met your mother. You have also inquired about the strange knife that you have in your possession. You got a rather ridiculous quote on how much Hugo thought it might be worth. You didn't even question it, so you don't know if he was just spitballing or what. So there's that. And then I think that was it for you, right? Nothing else happened. Yeah, because you failed really bad on attempting to have some ridiculous explosive crossbow be made. So, with that, 6 months have passed. The wall has been reconstructed, and more men have been coming in. There's a lot of fresh faces in town. A lot of the boys that were defending the gate have been taken under Otto's kind of lead. He's almost the de facto town guard at this point now, almost like the captain of the guard. Since he was one of the only men left towards the end of our previous adventure. He's taken a lot of the younger boys that stood with him at the gate and kind of has been training them, learning how to be an effective soldier, starting to man the gate once again. And within a few months, the town is almost running as smoothly as it was before. There are now attempts being made right before we start to repair the old wall that's further out from the new wall that's being created. Stone is being chiseled from a nearby quarry that has just been established to build up this old wall and then clear out in between both, and then maybe even expand the mine even further, the town that is, to essentially draw in more people and therefore more people to work the mine. This all this is coming to. This is becoming a very progressive town. Word is starting to get around that there is work in Sealburg, and any man that thinks he can throw a pick or do something of service-wise is starting to flock to town. So the town is beginning to expand. 6 months have passed. We are going to open up on you, Mr. Seamus. You are currently walking. You've been walking for a few miles now. You are outside of Sealburg. You are currently alone. There's no one with you. It's just you. You are on almost a personal mission. The woods are not as terrifying as they once were. You can actually hear birds and kind of barking in the distance and the rustling of leaves that you know to be more than likely woodland animals and not a beast trying to rip off your face and eat it. Mm. You've been walking for a few miles at this, about an hour or so, and you come across a divergence from a path. You actually make it to a stream. There is a bridge built across the stream made of stone. You know this very well. Very well indeed. I need you to make me a perception check. With advantage. It'll be a normal, so plus 20.
Ooh, I rolled a 4.
Okay, ooh, yeah, so that's real good. All right. How many levels is that?
If it was a plus 20, that would make it out of 71.
Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, so at least we'll go with 6 levels. Yeah, 6 levels of success. All right. So you know this area very well. This is where you grew up. This bridge was the bridge that your family has tolled for years. You come out here occasionally to ply your trade, but you haven't yet worked up the courage to seek out your old home. It's not far from here. And you easily, with a deft eye, I might add, pick out the old path that has been overgrown that would lead you to your old house. Would you like to take it?
I prefer to have Marius with me, just in case.
Marius is not with you, it's just you.
I know, just me. Sure, we'll go for it.
Okay. So you're confident in your abilities. You track through the woods. It's not far. It's maybe 200-300 feet into the actual woods, and there's a clearing up ahead. Now the clearing actually is starting to be overgrown. There's small trees starting to sprout up here and there, and you see a structure that you know to be your childhood home. You can tell just from looking at the outside, especially with your perception check, that it looks like parts of the roof have caved in, and the structure itself is in disrepair. Though some of the walls look like they're still intact, and the door is still apparently is there. Though it looks like it's cracked and possibly things have gone in and out of this home. As you walk up, you notice that you don't see any signs of people living there, squatters, anything like that. And you don't see any signs that it has been defaced, at least from the outside. You don't see anything. Now, you do see several other structures further out into the woodlands, which you would know in the past, those were probably homes of other relatives, uncles, aunts, things of that sort, distant second cousins twice removed. There was almost like a small community of MacReady's that just lived out here in the woods, plied their trade, and lived on their own. They're very stout, hardy people that defended themselves when need be and hunted things when they needed to. So as you make it into your childhood home, you push. I'm assuming you're going to enter?
Yes.
Okay. The doorway is intact. It is very withered and not kept up. You get the idea that nobody's been here in a long time. The wood feels very familiar as you push the door open. You're immediately confirmed with what you thought from the outside. Part of the roof has collapsed in, and the weather, the elements have just been able to pour in. You don't know for how long. Most of the furniture is dashed and smashed to pieces. But there are remnants that you see, and it's almost nostalgic. You're seeing basically your childhood. This is where you used to play hide and seek with your brothers. Over here is where you accidentally lit one of the tables on fire, and your father beat you almost to bloody death. Things of that sort. So you basically make your way into what would be almost like the kitchen living room combo, and you notice that there's birds have made like nests in here. You get the idea that they might be the only occupants in this house. There's definitely droppings and like a large nest, not freakishly large, but large enough nest that you get the idea that they've been using this for quite some time. As you push further into the house, you have a goal in mind at this point. You make your way through almost the waning structures, and you get to your parents' bedroom. You open the door. I need you to make one more perception test.
All right. Oh, that's a 5.
Okay, so easily once again. You are on fire tonight. Your senses are sharp, and you just feel like you feel in control of the situation. You push open the door, and there's at first a smell kind of wafts up, and it's the smell of decay, but not like a dead body. It's just the smell of something of like probably rotten wood. You get the idea that the structure is definitely failing at this point. You look around, you see the bed, and you see an end table, and then you see a desk that you know that your father used to spend a lot of time at. Whenever you would sneak in here at night, you'd see him laboring over this desk with a candle to light his way. And your mother would always try to keep you out of there while he was what he referred to as working, quote unquote. You walk over to the desk, and you can see there's carvings on the desk where it looks like you and your brothers actually carved into this desk. You're not sure what it was supposed to be. You're assuming with your limited understanding of words that you were attempting to sign your names, though you don't know how. So you just kind of etched some things into the wood. Your dad probably beat you severely for that as well. But you notice that there is a drawer that's open that was never opened before. It looks like the latch has been busted off. And you open it just out of curiosity, and you see inside a silver bracelet engraved with your family crest. It looks expensive, and it looks like there's some kind of writing on it as well, though you can't read or write. So there is some kind of writing on it. And you recognize it immediately. This was your mother's. This was a very expensive gift that your father gave to her that he may or may not have skimmed off of a merchant that was trying to pass during his tolling days. But I'm assuming you take it?
Yes.
Okay. So you reach down to take it, and as soon as you take it, a piece of cloth shifts underneath it, and you see a journal. It's bound in leather, and you recognize it as this is the thing that your father used to labor over. And just out of curiosity, you reach down, pick it up. Do you want to thumb through it?
Yes.
Okay. You can't read or write. It's just more comical than anything. You just kind of open it up out of curiosity. You've always wanted to see what was inside this damn thing. And you start flipping through pages. Now, though you can't read or write, you can recognize certain patterns and symbols. You see two very odd designs that keep reoccurring. With your perception check, you can easily get this. One in particular that stands out is it appears to be a dwarven rune that you see once or twice. You recognize it as the same rune dangling from Thor Duma's neck at the Silver Thaggy. You make that connection easily. It's recurring. The other design, which you see repeatedly throughout the journal, is a triangular pattern with what appears to be a long, almost canine tooth running through the center. And it's definitely some kind of symbol. You can recognize that it's not words or writing. You see both of those. And as you make that connection, are you going to keep the journal?
Yeah, I'm going to take the journal with me.
Okay. All right. You stow the journal for later's use. You look up and you can see through kind of the what remains of the shuttered windows right where you're standing. That you can see into out into the essentially what would be the backyard. And there is a familiar structure still completely standing, almost untouched. It's built into the stone of part of a large, almost like boulder-like outcropping, like a small hill. It's built into it. It's been chiseled with various markings, and even from this distance, with your excellent vision, you can see that there is a very large version of your family crest carved above it. And there's also a wooden structure kind of built around it to perhaps shelter a person from the elements.
I will walk out to it.
Okay, so you leave the room. You walk out outside, past the chirping birds. Go around the side of the house. You walk out towards what you know is your essentially your, what would be the best word for this? Family tomb? No, tomb is the wrong word.
Mausoleum?
Yeah, well, no, they're not buried there.
Altar.
I guess, yeah. We'll call it an altar for now.
It's an altar.
Yeah, kind of like that. It's basically just a big
Shrine.
stone. Yeah, a shrine. There we go.
Yeah.
Family shrine. That's better. So you make your way out to it. You see that it's a large rock that has been, it looks like, taken and chiseled out from the inside of what has been chiseled in, almost like it's been perfectly crafted around it. And it's very expertly done, almost as if it wasn't done by human hands. It's been chiseled from the actual rock face. And you see various squiggly lines to you have been chiseled into the stone, which you would have been taught at a younger age that these are the names of your ancestors, your forefathers. And there's been several names added since you last saw this stone. You don't know who added them, but there are names present. Would you like to do anything?
Okay. I can't read, so I wouldn't know what the names are.
You would not. But this is an altar to your ancestors.
Yeah, I would drop to my knees and kind of like whisper a little prayer, hang out there for a little bit.
Okay. Because you did that, I need you to make me an easy intuition test.
Intuition.
So easy is plus 40 to your intuition.
All right. Ooh, squeaked by. With that plus 40, it's a 72 out of 81.
Okay. So you get down on your knees and you begin praying to your ancestors, as all the people in your family have done for generations at this point. And you see a flicker in between where you're looking down. You open your eyes and there's just a glint of something. There's like almost a wood-like floorboard that has been placed for people to rest their knees on, so you're not in the dirt. And you see just a glint of something. Something's catching the light.
Can I like pry it up or like reach down in there to grab it?
So you reach down and you notice that there's been like a wadded up, which you know it used to be more well kept in the past, a kind of blanket that covers the wood that you're leaning on or resting on. And as you pull that back, you notice there's actually a makeshift hidden compartment that has been built into this altar that is concealed with this blanket. You've never seen it before. You don't ever remember even messing around with the altar either, because you knew of how severe the punishments would have been as a child trying to mess around in this place. But there is a trap door. It's not locked. You reach down. It pulls open. You see a glint of steel. Do you reach your hands in?
Yes.
Okay. And at this point, you're just infatuated. Both hands go into the hidden compartment, and you feel metal. Many different pieces kind of linked together. You pull it out into the sunlight, and you see a very old-fashioned ringed mail shirt of excellent quality. And it has the symbol of your family crest engraved through the various links and different kind of metalworking methods into the front of the shirt.
Well, does it fit me?
So as looking at it, it looks like it was made for a MacReady.
All right. Can I wear it over my leather?
Okay, so chainmail can be worn under armor.
Okay.
So you can wear it under your leather jack. So
Right.
are you just going to do it right here, just standing out in the open?
Yes.
Okay. You peel off the leather jack. You undo the ties. And you begin peeling it off, and you're bare chested, and then you hear a from around the corner of your house.
Well, I will quickly throw on that ring mail shirt and jack and investigate.
Okay, so as soon as you tug the mail shirt on, and before you can you're reaching down for the jack, you see a familiar figure step out from the side of the house. They lock eyes with you. A tall figure, green cloak, kind of dirty brown hair dangling about her shoulders. Thought I might find you here. And you are looking at the broad, smiling face of Angelica.
Oh, yeah. Hi. Did you follow me out? Yeah.
Well, not in particular, but now that I've found you in a state of weakness,
was in a state of weakness for you.
Well, charming as you are, Brandyfoot is actually looking for you. He may have a job for you and your... Well, what do you call the wolf anyway?
It's my best mate.
Mate, how fitting. Regardless, he offered the job to me, but I have business elsewhere, and I know you could probably use the coin. You should get back to town and seek him out. I happened to be passing through this way and noticed a interesting character dodging into the woods here.
Is she referring to me?
She's referring to you.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about this job he's got for us. I want to make sure it's worth my while.
I'm sure it will be. And she flashes you another smile and begins walking away.
I'll run after her.
Okay. As you run after her,
Why?
that is where we are going to take our break. So that is going to be the end of the break.
Yeah.
And we will pick this up in a moment.